This week's episode of We Need to Talk is, of course, sponsored by our good friends over at Manscaped, who, by the way, have just released a cologne. A Manscaped aftershave. I need to get me some of that. If you want to get involved in the Manscaped hype, head over to manscaped.com, slap in the code FootballDaily20. You get 20% off all of their products, as well as free shipping, and you'll also help out the channel whilst you're there. Anyway, we need to talk now, because this is the show that looks at football on the internet over the past 7 days. 7 days that's seen absolute scenes in the Man City dressing room. Even more scenes in the Chelsea dressing room. And Avi Glazer refusing to apologise to United fans.
This is an opportunity for you. An apology, perhaps. Are the fans just customers to you, Mr. Glazer?
Anyway, today we need to talk about this season's transfers. Okay, about this time last year, I did a review of the 1920 biggest transfers. Who was good, who was bad. This year, we're going to do the exact same, baby. So I'm going to look at the 20 most expensive summer transfers in the 2020-2021 season and rank them in 5 different categories. Yes, it's another tier list video. Get over yourselves. Now, before we get into it, I want you guys at home to get in the comments right now who has been the best summer transfer this season and who has been the worst summer transfer. As I said, I'm going to be looking at the 20 most expensive, according to Transfermarkt. Transfermarkt, you know what a site is. Basically, they tell you the values of transfers. Can I say it any simpler than that? Okay, as you can see, I've got 5 different categories here. We've got great, good, okay, underwhelming, G. I don't know why it put the G on the one below, and poor. I've fixed it. I've put a dash between under and whelming. Doesn't really make sense, but definitely looks better. Okay, we're going to start with Thomas Partey. Now, Thomas Partey, according to Transfermarkt, was signed for £45 million. And I have to say, in my opinion, it's been a bit of a disappointing first season from Thomas Partey. But then again, who hasn't disappointed playing for Arsenal that's not called Saka, Smith Rowe or Tierney? He's only made 15 Premier League starts so far this season. 1.8 tackles, less than an interception a game, 0.6 key passes. He is 27 years old as well. And I have to say, I was expecting more for £45 million than I've seen so far. I still think he's a very good player. I still think he is a superb Arsenal midfielder. But I think it has been an underwhelming first campaign. I was expecting more than a 10th place finish, 15 starts from Thomas Partey. Okay, next up, we've got another Arsenal summer signing, Gabriel. Now, Gabriel cost £25 million, so £20 million less than Thomas Partey. He's also only 23, isn't he? So he's, 4 years younger than Thomas Partey. He's made 18 starts, so probably not as many as he would have liked, and he definitely looks more solid whenever David Luiz is playing. I also think he started the season a lot better than he's finishing it. But Arsenal's defence hasn't necessarily been their biggest problem, has it? Let's face it, Arsenal's defence isn't the biggest issue at the club. And he was only 25 million. I'm tempted to put him slightly ahead of Thomas Partey just because I wasn't expecting as much. Do you know what I mean? Thomas Partey, I felt like I was expecting to be one of the league's best central midfielders. Gabriel, I was never really expecting him to be one of the league's best centre-backs. I think he's done okay since he's come in. And he costs so much less. Yeah, I'm going to put him slightly ahead of Partey. Arsenal fans, let the heat commence. Ollie Watkins is up next then. Former Exeter City lad, so I've got a bit of bias going on here. And I'm tempted to put him in Tier 1. I won't put him in Tier 1 though. I'll put him in Tier 2, I think, because he has been bloody exceptional. 13 goals, 4 assists for an Aston Villa side that have been massively improved on last year's relegation scrap. 33 starts, extremely consistent with his back to goal. He runs the channel. He's Dean Smith's ideal number 9. Of course, they work together at Brentford as well, taking some of that burden off Jack Grealish, although Villa without Grealish, as we've seen in these last 5 or 6 weeks, are a totally different team. Nevertheless, super impressed by Watkins. I think he might go to the Euros with England. That's how good he's been. Kai Havertz is up next. And we're getting into the big boys here, aren't we? As you can see, 4 Chelsea players coming next. They did have one hell of a summer. They spent so much money last year, didn't they? And Kai Havertz, at £72 million, was the most expensive player in the league. And boy, oh boy, did Kai Havertz start slowly. I mean, he scored 1 Premier League goal, I think, up until April. And he's playing in sort of a false 9, number 10, maybe a bit at times under Lampard. But he is starting to find his feet more now. Under Thomas Tuchel, who's using him more as a classic 9, he's definitely starting to find his feet. I'm pretty much convinced we won't see Kai Havertz play in a midfield again, as he did at times for Leverkusen. We are going to see him play way more advanced under Thomas Tuchel. 4 goals, 3 assists. It's underwhelming, man. For £72 million, 7 goal involvements is underwhelming. But he's so young. And he's also in a Champions League final. He's in an FA Cup final. I think that bumps him up 1. He should be an underwhelming. But because of the cup success, I'm putting him in okay. And I'm aware I'm going to get so much heat for that in the comments. Talking of controversial, Timo Werner's up next then. Oh, Lord. £48 million, which is actually not a huge amount of money. I know that it is, but contextually, I don't think that's loads for a striker of Timo Werner's quality. Yes, he hasn't scored as many goals as he would like this season, but he is getting in the right positions. Goals are going to come for Timo Werner. 100%. He's underperformed expected goals by 7 this year. That doesn't happen to any footballer across the course of their career. He will start scoring goals at a significantly quicker rate. And he has contributed 13 goals in 26 starts for Chelsea in the Premier League. Again, he's also in a Champions League final and an FA Cup final. And he scored in the Champions League semi-final. Yes, it was a tap-in. So I would have put him in okay. I'm tempted to bump him up to good. See, if I put him in tier 3, in the okay tier alongside Havertz, that's probably fair. But I bumped Havertz up from underwhelming. So I'm going to bump... Am I going to drop Havertz back down to underwhelming? I'm dropping Havertz back down to... I can't put Gabriel above Havertz, can I? This is so difficult, honestly. No, I'm going to put Timo in tier 2. Has he been good, Timo? I think Timo has been good. I think he has been good. I'm putting him in tier 2. Oh, God, what am I doing? Ben Chilwell's up next then. Again, expensive player. £45 million on the left-back. 7 goal involvements in 24 games this season. And I was slightly worried for him when Thomas Tuchel came in and deployed the wing-back system that he wouldn't be able to adapt. But I think he has now firmly adapted. I thought he was pretty good last night against Real Madrid. And I think Chelsea, since Tuchel have come in, have been pretty much exceptional. So, Ben Chilwell, I forgot Timo in tier 2. I guess Ben Chilwell's been good this year, I would say. Not great. It's been okay to good. I wish there was a 2.5 category, man. I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to get so much hate for this video. Hakim Ziyech is up next then. £36 million. And for me, this is just my opinion, he's probably been the most disappointing of all of Chelsea's summer signings. I think he's been more disappointing than Kai Havertz. Yes, he cost half the fee. I'm fully aware of that. But less than 1,000 Premier League minutes, or about 1,000 Premier League minutes. Just not good enough. And you know, unlike Kai Havertz, who's very young, Hakim Ziyech's 28. He came in producing 4.5 key passes last year for Ajax. That's dropped all the way down to 1.3 at Chelsea. He's got 1 goal, 3 assists. I don't see him having a future necessarily at Chelsea. With the amount of wide and creative young talent they've got, your Werners, Mounts, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, Havertz can play in there. I don't necessarily see where Ziyech fits in at Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel. I think he might get sold in the summer. I've been really underwhelmed by Hakim Ziyech. I thought it'd be a lot better. Okay, we're moving on to Everton now because they spent £24 million on Ben Godfrey. And I've actually been pretty impressed by Ben Godfrey. I don't think he's been one of the outstanding centre-backs in the league, but he's been versatile enough to play at full-back at times and at centre-back for Carlo Ancelotti in what has been one of the better Everton sides over recent years. 24 starts. I think he's been okay. I think he's perfectly deserving to slot into that third-tier category. The defence hasn't been amazing, which is the reason I'm not putting him high. They've still conceded 42 goals this season. You know, they've still conceded more goals than Arsenal. So I'm not going to put him higher than that, but I'm content with tier 3 for Godfrey. Another one of Everton's summer recruits then, Allan, £22 million. He's only started 18 Premier League games this season. Of course, he has had injury problems, but you know, third most tackles per 90 in the entire Premier League this season for Allan. I think behind Romeo and Ndidi. So I am going to put him in the okay tier. Yeah, third tier I think is about fair because when he's fit and available, he is still pretty sharp. He just hasn't ripped up any trees. Talking of not ripping up any trees, and this would be an understatement, we've got Rodrigo up next then. Club record Rodrigo. £27 million he costs Leeds, and he is 30 years old, which really shocked me when I read that because he has only scored 3 goals, I think got 1 assist, made only 12 starts. Tempted to put him in poor. I think there's worse players to come, but I'm very tempted to put him in poor. I'm going to put him in underwhelming, but he's a lucky boy. Moving up to the other end of this tier list then, we have got Wesley Fofana. Now, he has been simply sensational since he's arrived in Leicester. He's still only 20 years old, which is frightening because he's unreal on the ball. He's unreal off the ball. £31 million seems like a snip now, doesn't it? I'm going to put Fofana in tier 1. I think that was a great bit of business. 4.5 tackles and interceptions per 90. Over 60 completed passes at a 90% completion rate. Rodgers must be rubbing his hands together because this bit of Leicester recruitment was unreal. Diogo Jota is up next, and this is an interesting one because when he's played, he's been sensational. 8 goals in 10 starts in the Premier League. I think he's got 4 goals in 6 starts in the Champions League. It's just a shame he's been so injured. Like, if I've got Timo up there, I kind of want to put Jota in and around the same sort of area. I think he has been a good signing for Liverpool, and he is still only 24. He is going to get better. Just a shame he's been so unfit. Thiago is up next then, and I'm sure people will be hammering me in the comments here, but I just don't think he's been nearly as bad as Football Twitter will have you believe. Yes, he's only started 15 games in the Prem, had that bad injury after that awful tackle. I think it was by Richarlison early doors in the season against Everton. But still putting up nearly 4 tackles and interceptions, still putting up over 1.5 key passes. He hasn't got an assist or anything this season, but Liverpool as a whole have been super unbalanced. And look, if I've got Gabriel in tier 3, Thiago's got to go in tier 3. If I've got Allan in tier 3, Thiago's got to go in tier 3. Surely you can agree with me on that. I know that he's sort of a meme at the moment. Expected thumbs up, stuff like that. But I think he's been okay. And he was only 20 mil. He was cheap. If he'd have cost 80, he'd be a tier lower. Next up then, we've got what can only be described as one of the most frightening players I've seen come to the Premier League in some time. Ruben Dias. This guy's a potential player of the season candidate. He's almost a club captain, to be honest with you, at times at Man City. When I look at him on the pitch, the way he's vocal, leading his troops. And he's 23. 23? This guy replaced Victor Lindelof at Benfica. So yeah, I've stuck him straight into tier 1. Absolutely obvious. They've only conceded 24 goals in the Premier League this season. I mean, he makes John Stones look like Nesta to his Maldini, doesn't he? He's absolutely ridiculous. And get on this. He's completing 86 passes on average a game at a 94% completion rate. The guy is not only a metronome, he's a warrior. He gets his head in front of everything. Against PSG in the semi-final, he would have cut his arm off to win that game. What a player Ruben Dias is. If there was a tier above tier 1, I'd be sticking him up around top here. Tierlist.com level. Unfortunately, his success, though, has meant that Nathan Ake, at 40 million quid, has played just 600 minutes of football. I think Nathan Ake is going to go in my poor signings. And I think maybe less so for Manchester City because, you know, fourth choice centre-back. It's always good to have a player of Nathan Ake's quality at your club. But more for Nathan Ake. I know that he's going to win titles. He's probably going to win the Champions League. He's probably going to win the Premier League multiple times. But I would have expected that he wanted to play more football than this. And I think he probably thought he'd play more football than this. I don't think he knew how good Ruben Dias was going to be, to be fair. But yeah, I think that's not really worked out, that move. Talking of moves that haven't really worked out, we've got Donny Van De Beek next. Not worked at all. I was really wrong about how he's been used, and I'm not overly happy with how he's been used. Let's put it that way. 300 Premier League minutes. I think we should have seen more rotation in that Manchester United team. There was a period where we looked really tired and we were afraid to rotate. So obviously Donny's going to go into the poor category because he's played just 300 minutes. But I think there are going to be opportunities for Donny Van De Beek, especially if Paul Pogba leaves the club. I hope he doesn't. But if Pogba leaves, I think you'll see Donny Van De Beek play a much more significant role. If he doesn't, I worry for Donny. Callum Wilson is up next then, and I have to say, I'm tempted by tier 1 here. I really am, because, do you know what? I'm going to put him in tier 1. And do you know the reason is that I think without Callum Wilson, Newcastle would definitely be a championship side next season. He's contributed to 40% of their goals. 15 goal involvements in 22 starts. If he'd have been fit all season, that would be even higher. This guy has kept Newcastle in the Premier League. So, he probably should be in the second category, in and around Ollie Watkins. But in terms of actual significance of signing, I think Wilson is huge. So I'm going to put him in tier 1. Now, Wilson was signed for 21 million. Rhian Brewster was signed for 23 million. And it's all gone wrong, really, for Rhian, hasn't it? I'm going to put him in the poor signings category. 1,000 minutes for Sheffield United this season, but he hasn't scored a goal. Sheffield United have scored 18 goals in the Premier League this year. 18 goals in, what is it now, 34 games? Oh, I think he'll be okay, though, in the Championship. He scored, I think it was 11 when he was at Swansea in about 21 games down there. So I think he'll be okay in the Championship, but it's been a poor season. Sergio Reguilon is up next then. He was bought in for £27 million, and me included, as a lot of United fans, really wanted Sergio Reguilon. But Luke Shaw's blown him out of the water this year. Even though he did start incredibly brightly, much like Tottenham Hotspur, to be honest with you, he's fizzled out. When I've watched him recently, I thought that he's struggling slightly physically against some of the wingers in the Premier League. When he was being stood up by Riyad Mahrez, I thought Riyad Mahrez was really bullying him quite badly in terms of which foot he wanted to come in on. Reguilon didn't seem to have the physicality to show him down the line. I thought he struggled quite badly there. 22 Premier League starts. I don't think he's been poor. I think he's been underwhelming. He's been somewhere between underwhelming and okay. Somewhere between 3 and 4. I think he's been okay. Yeah, he's been okay. Because he wasn't as expensive as Partey. He wasn't as expensive, he was as expensive as Rodrigo, but contextually, he wasn't because Rodrigo is their record signing. So I think I'll put Reguilon in okay, even though I feel like I'm making no sense anymore. Fabio Silva is up next then. £36 million, huge amount of money. And I'm sure FD put him in some video the other day. I can't remember who scripted it, saying that he was one of the worst signings or something like that of the season. I think that's maybe a little bit harsh because he is only 18 years old. And I'm sure Wolves fans will say, he scored goals when he's played. I think he's got 4 goals, 7 starts. He's not Raul Jimenez, though, because he's next door agrees, because he's only 18. He will be fine. Been a poor season, but he will get better. Okay, so that's my tier list. I'm not overly happy with it, to be honest with you. I feel like Havertz is maybe a bit kind. Probably should have been in the underwhelming category. But Champions League and FA Cup have pushed him up. And I feel like Werner and Chilwell probably could have come down. I'm not overly happy with it. And I'm sure I'm getting heaters in the comments from you guys. But nevertheless, that's it. That's my Premier League best and worst signings tier list of the 2021 campaign. Let me know your best and worst signings in the comments below right now. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Also, as I said at the start of the video, this is brought to you by our good friends at Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com, put in the code FootballDaily20. You'll get 20% off all Manscaped products, as well as free shipping. So manscaped.com, FootballDaily20. Thanks very much for everybody that watched. I'll see you later. Next door's kicking up a stink.